Tone. Anything you want to know about our viewers?
I'm Tony Kornheiser. Yeah. Are you choosing to watch us, or are we just on in the bar? That's what I'd like to know. Yeah.
Well, do the eyeballs count either way? If they count, I don't care if they're in a bar.
But if they're in a bar, they've never actually heard us speak. No. They have read what we have said, but they're not actually listening to us. I don't think of them as customers, though. Do you? I don't think of them as customers.
Yeah.
Welcome to PTI,
like
boys
Norm
and girls.
at the bar, they're customers.
Really? In today's episode, Brian Kelly roots for Notre Dame. The Celtics are in a lull, and Booger McFarland joins us for 5 good minutes. But we begin today with the upcoming NFL weekend playoff games. Best weekend all year. The number 1 seed in the AFC, Kansas City, is at home against Houston. The number 1 seed in the NFC, Detroit, is at home against Washington. Both Houston and Washington were upset winners last week. Wilbon, which number 1 seed do you see as more vulnerable this week?
Detroit, Tony, for a couple of reasons. And I, all year have thought that if Detroit can do something other than limp to the finish line, Detroit could win the whole thing. And they've been the best team in the NFC. I know there were a couple of weeks where they had so many people, like north of 25 on injured reserve, that you just looked at it. You and I looked at it and said, "How you can't sustain this?" Well, they get people back. They get improvements. They got such great coaches who learned how over the course of this season to compensate with the resources they have. And there's nothing but kudos for the Lions. But I think they're still vulnerable because of those injuries and because they're playing a Washington Commanders team with Jayden Daniels. Then maybe it's his time. Maybe it just is, even though he's a rookie, even though he's playing in the place that I believe, right there with Lambeau, Kansas City, Buffalo, I believe Detroit is the toughest place, Seattle, the toughest place to play in the NFL, particularly in a playoff game. So, Tony, I just think that they're playing with house money. The Commanders have no particular pressure. You know this in civic terms. People just love them. Yeah. People are just slurping them every day. Everybody loves the Commanders. They're playing with house money. They could go in there and maybe get a lead, which they're going to need to do, and stay close enough in that game and steal it. It would be a steal. It would be an upset. But I don't see Houston doing that at all. I know they played them close recently. I don't see the Texans doing that to the Chiefs.
So my heart tells me that Washington can beat Detroit. But my heart tells me that because I live in Washington, D.C., and I'm probably sort of kind of rooting for that. But I have watched this incredible turnaround from last year, from 4-13 to 13-5 at the moment. And I have paid attention as time and time again, I think it's 5 games in a row now, Washington has won games on the last play of the game. Yeah. And I think that they are infused with magic. But when it comes to destiny, now Detroit has destiny. And Detroit is more of a darling than Washington for this reason, Mike. Washington last won 30 years ago. Detroit hasn't won in almost 70 years.
70 years.
Since 1957. Yeah. That is before the Super Bowl. That is before the merger. That is before the AFL. That is before instant replay. That is before face masks. So the destiny thing, Detroit's got that. I don't think Houston is a very good team. I think they were better last year. But they were toe-to-toe with Kansas City, I think 4 weeks ago in Kansas City.
Yeah, they did.
17-16 in the third quarter, and then Tank Dell got hurt, and they ended up losing 27-19. Here's why I say it, Mike. Kansas City, their regulars haven't played in 3 weeks. Maybe they're rusty. They win games by an average of 3.5 points. That's an incredibly small margin. So maybe Houston has a chance.
They can't let Will Anderson wreck the game because he can do that with that Houston defense and lead the way doing it. But I just think that Andy Reid and his staff, and the best quarterback in football, they'll figure out how to neutralize that, even with the problems they have at left tackle. So I'm not going to say Mahomes is going to. I'm not willing to put Will Anderson there with Reggie White and Lawrence Taylor just yet. He may prove it. I got to see it first. Now, to the college football title game, and Brian Kelly backing, I say that loosely, Notre Dame. Kelly famously left the Irish for LSU in November of 21, saying, quote, "I want to be in an environment where I have the resources to win a national championship," close quote. Well, Notre Dame is now playing for that championship, and Kelly's at the crib, telling CBS Sports he pulls for the Irish because he recruited some of those current players and only left because he wanted a different challenge. Please, Tony, how does Kelly's explanation sound to you?
How does it sound to me? I wish we had video on it because I'd like to see, does his nose get larger? Is it a Pinocchio situation for him? I mean, come on. Come on. When he says he wants a different challenge or another challenge, did I miss when he won the national championship at Notre Dame? Was I out of the country?
Missed it. Yeah.
Everyone knows that Brian Kelly went to LSU to win a national championship, and everyone assumes he went there because he thought there was a better chance he could do that at LSU than in Notre Dame. And why do people assume that? Because he said that. Does he think we have forgotten that? Or does he think because he did it in that contrived Southern accent that he invented that we didn't really understand the words? Come on. Come on.
I forgot that. Tony, he's such a fraud when it comes to so many public utterances. And this is not the only fraudulent thing Brian Kelly has said. I mean, Brian Kelly does these things. I guess he thinks we're too stupid to either have YouTube or videotape or remember or tape recording. I mean, really? Does he think that everybody's that stupid? He says these things. This is so fraudulent. What he's saying now is like life is too short to pay any attention to anything said, uttered by Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly's a hell of a coach. He is. He's still a hell of a coach. Even though he didn't actually win that national championship before. He is, Tony. But also when it comes to public utterances and his positioning and his credibility about things like this, a fraud. So, it's
Mike,
like, please shut up and get off the stage. Shut up.
113 and 40 in 12 years at Notre Dame. He's a
hell of a
coach.
He is.
But 1-7 against top 5 teams. That's that problem that the Penn State coach, James Franklin, has as well. Whereas the coach at Notre Dame now, 33-9 in his 3 years there, and 3-2 against top 5 teams. And Mike, it's got to frost Brian Kelly's hide. Yeah, that Notre Dame is in a position to win the national championship, and he just got out of the Texas Bowl. Let's move to the Boston Celtics, who were beaten last night by the lowly Toronto Raptors. Came into the game 9-31. The Celtics are now 7-7 in their last 14 games after a 21-5 start. Boston's Kristaps Porzingis called his team's effort last night, quote, weak. Porzingis said, quote, we played with no spirit, no personality, unquote. Wilbon, are the Celtics' recent struggles a big deal, a little deal, or no deal at all?
No deal. They don't even reach the level of no deal. We talk about this every year. And you and I have talked about it for 20 years before PTI ever aired. There's a time between about January 15th and the All-Star game where the best teams get bored. And even the great teams, and I don't have their specific night-by-night records in front of me, but the only 2 teams that really didn't get bored to any great extent were the Warriors, who won whatever it was, 73 games, I guess, and the Bulls, who won 72. And they managed to basically avoid that malaise. But these dog days, the dog days of the NBA season,